How many times have you tried to do all the things you're supposed to do to be a good mom, but instead of feeling on top of things or fulfilled, you feel stressed, overwhelmed, and like you could never quite measure up? Spoiler alert, that pressure you feel is coming from the expectations you've absorbed from everyone else. And when you start chasing someone else's definition of a good mom, you slowly lose the freedom to be the mom God actually created you to be. Welcome to Conquer Mom Stress, the podcast that helps you stress less and enjoy motherhood more. If you've ever crawled into bed at night, completely exhausted, but still feel like there's so much left to do, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Jill Gockel, and I believe that motherhood is meant to feel joyful, not exhausting. Today, we'll uncover what's really fueling your stress and give you the practical tools to conquer it, so you can finally feel like the confident mom you were made to be. Also, if you have a specific question or issue you're stressing about, head over to jillgockel.com/ask to submit your question. And who knows, you might just be featured in an upcoming episode so you can get practical, real-world solutions to the exact challenges you're facing. One of our listeners was sharing with me how hard it is to be a good mom. She ends every day exhausted and like there's still so much left to do. Meanwhile, her husband stayed home with the kids one day and told her how easy it'd been. She felt defeated, like she was failing as a mom and totally discredited for all her hard work. She was doing all the things to be a good mom, keeping TV off all day, playing with her kids, teaching them their shapes, potty training, helping them learn to clean up after themselves, not to mention making them healthy snacks, cooking meals, doing all the laundry, and keeping the house clean. Her husband spent the day watching TV with the kids, eating pizza on paper plates, and taking full advantage of the diapers. She felt like, of course it's easy when you do it that way. And herein lies the problem. Moms are fed the belief that there is one way to be a good mom, and it comes with an inexhaustible list of all the things you should be doing as a mom. You should read more to your kids. You should cook healthier meals. You should keep the house cleaner. You should be more patient, more present, calmer. You should sign them up for more activities and get them outside more. You should enjoy every moment. The list of what makes a good mom feels endless and impossible to measure up. So you're always left feeling like you're failing as a mom. But a lot of the pressure moms feel to do all the things isn't coming from your kids or even from God. It's coming from the expectations you've absorbed from everyone else. And when you start chasing someone else's definition of a good mom, you slowly lose the freedom to be the mom God actually created you to be. Here's what's happening when you define motherhood by the opinions of others. You stop showing up as your authentic self. This happens because instead of looking at God to determine what's best for your family, your eyes become focused on outside sources. What does society say I need to do to be a good mom? How can I conform to that so I meet their standard? And isn't that exactly what the devil wants to happen? If he can turn your eyes away from God and onto others, suddenly your decisions are driven by comparison. And honestly, that's the fastest way to keep on mom guilt, stress, and overwhelm. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And it's so true, because suddenly motherhood becomes a continuous self-evaluation. Am I doing what the experts say I'm supposed to do? Am I doing what the other moms around me are doing? Who would have thought that the stress of trying to be a good mom is rooted in comparison? Especially since you're not consciously doing that. Honestly, this is how humans have learned to survive. Babies watch those around them and mimic them in order to grow and mature. This is natural, but your brain is built for your survival, not your success. When you constantly look to others to determine what you should be doing as a mom, you end up saying yes to things that exhaust you. You try to keep up with standards that don't fit your family, and you fill your days with expectations that weren't meant for you. And the result is stress, pressure, and the constant feeling of falling short, because no one can successfully live out everyone else's expectations. When you're focused on meeting outside approval, you slowly lose connection with the person God created you to be. In Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, St. Paul wrote, "Am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." This verse speaks directly to the pressure many moms feel today. And here's the thing, it's not intentional. I bet you don't go around thinking, I want their approval, so my kids have to look perfectly put together when we leave the house. But have you ever thought, oh no, my kids have food all over their face. I hope no one notices or sees what a mess I am. The devil is so sneaky, masquerading these insecurities so you don't realize you're trying to win the approval of others. There have been so many times when someone has stopped by my house unexpectedly over the years, and I was so embarrassed at the mess they were walking into. Toys everywhere, dishes piled up, my kids still in PJs at 3 p.m. My embarrassment turned to shame, and my shame into condemnation. And it was all because I was worried what that person was thinking about me. That's the indication that you're defining your worth and ability to be a good mom based on other people's expectations. When your goal becomes pleasing others, you stop living for love and joy in motherhood. You stop being a servant of God. And here's the real consequence of striving to be a good mom based on everyone else's definition of a good mom. Your stress level rises because trying to do everything creates constant pressure. Your mind is always scanning for what you should be doing next. This causes connection with your kids to suffer. When your energy is spent managing expectations and tasks, it becomes harder to slow down and simply enjoy your children. Instead of experiencing moments with them, you're thinking about the next thing on the list. Guys, I am so guilty of this. And this leads to joy disappearing because all of a sudden, motherhood feels like a performance evaluation instead of a relationship filled with love. Listen, God didn't create a generic template for motherhood. There is no one single right way to be a good mom. And doing everything perfectly isn't the way to be a good mom either. In fact, God doesn't even call you to be perfect. He only calls you to be perfected. Perfect is a destination that can never be achieved on this side of heaven. But perfected is a journey of continual improvement. Have you ever watched a baby learn to walk? Do they do it perfect on day 1? No, of course not. Do they do it perfect on day 100? Still no. And I gotta tell you, I am 15,292 days old, and I still don't walk perfectly. I stumble, trip at times, and even fall flat on my bum. But I still believe I'm good at walking. And you know what? Even if there are days you stumble in motherhood, trip up on doing your best, and fall flat on your face where you were totally off your mom game, you need to get to the point that you believe you are still a good mom. And that happens by redefining what a good mom actually means. Not according to other moms, not according to Google, and definitely not according to social media, but according to God and the unique needs of your family. Because when your focus shifts back to God, you gain clarity. Galatians chapter 6, verse 4 says, everyone should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. This is the answer to stopping the mom guilt and overwhelm that comes from trying to do all the things everyone says it takes to be a good mom. Here are 3 steps to redefine what being a good mom really means, so you can release the pressure, focus on what truly matters for your family, and finally experience more joy in motherhood. We are going to do this by vetting expectations of what it means to be a good mom. Anytime you catch yourself thinking, I should be doing this, you need to run this expectation through a series of filters. Filter number 1 is the why filter. Why should you be doing it? Grab a pen and paper. List all the reasons you can think of why you should be doing it. What are the benefits to doing it? How will it positively impact you and your family? How will it make life easier and more enjoyable for you? Once you understand the why behind doing it, you can't forget to understand why you shouldn't be doing it. There's two sides to every coin. So next, you're going to run it through the why not filter. List all the reasons why you should not be doing this. Why isn't it a good fit for you and your family? How will it negatively impact you guys? Why isn't it in alignment with what's important to you? As you begin to intentionally think about the positive and negative impacts this expectation will have on you and your family, it's time to dig deep and really figure out, who does this expectation serve? Is this a task or activity that brings glory to God? Does it celebrate you, how God created you, your unique personality and likes and dislikes? Is it something that everyone else is doing and you don't want to feel left out, where you're seeking the approval of others? Or is this something that's meaningful to your kids, that honors them and the way God uniquely made your children? Would you feel more accepted by others if you did it? Or would you feel like you are living your life in glory of God? These can be hard questions to ask, but they are the questions you need to answer in order to feel godly peace in motherhood. Being a good mom isn't about doing all the things. It's about honoring the person God created you to be and the family He blessed you with. These three filters of why should you be doing it, why not, and who does it honor will help you identify what expectations fit you and your unique family. Back when I had 4 kids, ages 5 and under, I had such self-condemnation on my inability to be what I believed was a good mom who had a perfectly clean home at all times, perfectly behaved kids, and perfect interaction with them at all times. But eventually I realized that in that season, being a good mom was less about having a clean home and more about nurturing and caring for the high demand needs of my young kids. Although I also realized that having a war zone of a home wasn't the right answer either. When I was focused on having a perfectly clean home, I cared more about the judgment of others than what my family needed. And when I stopped focusing on a clean home, it became a place that was so messy that our family really couldn't connect and enjoy each other. So I eventually had to find a happy medium, one that fit my family where we were at in that stage of life. A quick tidy of the house instead of creating a spotless space was exactly what we needed. It was still messy, but the messes were contained. Playing with my kids in the morning, but giving TV time later meant that we got time to connect, but I also got some much needed me time to either clean, work, or just relax. And only saying yes to extracurricular activities that my family loved meant that we weren't as involved, but we also only did the activities that filled our buckets. Listen, mama, your personality, gifts, and strengths were given to you intentionally by God. You don't have to imitate someone else's style of motherhood. Your authenticity is exactly what your children need. When you redefine what it means to be a good mom based on doing the things that fit you and your family's unique personalities, interests, and desires, motherhood becomes about thriving as a family rather than striving for perfection. St. Francis de Sales said, "Be who you are and be that well." Such a simple statement, but incredibly powerful. God didn't ask you to become someone else. He didn't ask you to conform to what everyone else is doing. In fact, He called you to be transformed so you can be the best version of the person He created. Imagine how different motherhood would feel when you release the pressure to prove yourself, when you stop measuring your life against everyone else's, when you focus on loving your children and connecting with them instead of doing everything perfectly. Suddenly, the stress begins to fade. The fear of judgment goes away. Your days feel lighter, and joy begins to grow again in the ordinary moments. Because being a good mom isn't about doing all the things, and it's not about having it all together. It's about loving your children faithfully and showing up as the woman God created you to be. Mama, if you've been feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to do everything right, hear this today. You were never meant to carry the expectations of the world. You were called to love the children God entrusted to you. And when you let go of everyone else's definition of a good mom and embrace the one God designed for you, something beautiful happens. Peace replaces pressure, connection replaces comparison, and joy returns to motherhood. You are already the mom your children need, and that is more than enough. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Conquer Mom Stress. If today's conversation encouraged you, hit follow and leave a review. That lets me know that these episodes are hitting the topics you need. And while you're there, share this podcast with another mom who might need notes. Remember, this is your place to pause, reset, and start conquering mom stress, one small step at a time. Motherhood isn't meant to drain the life out of you. It's meant to be lived with joy, even on the messy days. And together, we're going to find that joy again.